I'm Professor Richard Devaney. I'm the Bacala Professor of Strategy at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. I'm here today with Alan Wilson. He's President, CEO, and Chairman of the Board of McCormick Corporation, one of the world's leading flavors companies. You've got a really interesting business because it runs everywhere from, the romance of the spice trade in five millennia ago to spice wars and disputes over the spice routes going from Asia to Western Europe during the Middle Ages and during the Renaissance period, to outer space and Dune, where in video games they're playing to win by competing for different planets that produce very different spices. So, what I would like to ask you about is the supply chain that you have, because that's always kind of the big debate in whether it was in the outer space video game like Dune 2, or whether it was what the wars were over that took place centuries ago. Tell me about this supply chain, and what it's like, because it's not a normal kind of stable, steady supply chain. It's very flexible, as I understand. It
is. We have a very global supply chain because most of our products are grown within a few degrees of the equator. And so what that means is we're subject to a lot of weather events, a lot of political changes, and changes in what farmers and their habits are in terms of the things that they can grow. So they always have a choice on growing our products or something else. And so it's up to us to make sure that we have a variety of sources, because we're dealing with everything from political unrest right now in the Middle East to weather events in parts of Asia. That if the rains and the monsoons come at the wrong time, when buds are flowering, that reduces our supply. So we have to make sure that we are flexible and have alternative sources that we can source from that keep us in supply, so we can provide these things for our customers.
So how do you manage that? How do you ensure supply, yet keep all that flexibility?
We have a global team on the ground who are always monitoring the conditions there. So we've got teams in India and China and a team that travels to other parts of the world as crops are being planted, as they're growing, and then finally as they're harvesting. And they're talking to farmers to get some of that intelligence. They're also monitoring weather conditions and political situations that could impact us, so we can make decisions to have longer positions or shorter positions based on what we think the supply and the economics are going to be.
So do you buy it all in the spot market?
We tend to most of our volume is probably going to come through the spot market in a way. But because of the nature of some of our crops, like black pepper, for instance, is largely going to be a market that changes every day. There's a new spot price every hour, and so but we're in the market consistently to make sure we have the supply that we need.
I see. So how do you manage that information flow about daily prices and availability?
It's really interesting. You may find that you're sitting in what you perceive to be a third world country, and you may be talking to a farmer that has multiple cell phones, who's very attuned to what the market price in Brazil, Indonesia, Vietnam is, and his price in India. So the farmers are pretty technically adept, even though you may find that the rest of the infrastructure doesn't look like that. It's their livelihood, and so they're pretty adept at what the current pricing is.
So you have to monitor the information even better than they do.
That's right.
In order to be able to make sure that you can do the trading properly.
That's right.
I see. How do you ensure quality and purity and safety in this kind of supply chain? Because it sounds like you're dealing with a lot of places that probably don't have very high standards.
Part of it is by setting standards and expectations for being able to do business with us. That's created traceability back in the supply chain. It's created different growing conditions and different handling and harvesting conditions, which give us a cleaner product from the beginning. But then we bring it to our central points and sterilize it so that we're providing the top safety for either our consumer or industrial customers.
Very diverse kind of supply chain, but it all comes into 4 or 5 centralized sterilization and purification, I guess,
Yes.
Facilities.
Yes.
And then from there, where does your product go?
Then it goes into the markets where we sell it. We tend to package as close as possible to where we sell product. So we're packaging in North America for North America, and we're packaging in Europe for Europe, and in Asia and China for those markets. So we want to keep the actual packaging as close to the market as we can, because it helps us with one, inventory levels and cash flows, but it also gives us a better quality product as close as we can to packaging.
To local tastes.
Right.
Do you have any global products that sell everywhere?
We have products. Black pepper we sell everywhere, and a number of the spice commodities are similar across the world. But we're selling under different brands because we've tried to maintain the equity of the businesses and the brands that we've bought. So while we may sell black pepper consistently, or oregano, or pepper, or cinnamon, we do have products that are sold under different brands.
Tell me a little bit more about globalization and amongst your customers, because you serve like all the big folks in the world.
Sure. And we're fortunate to have that kind of position with them. And so what we do is we manage the customers with global teams, and we try to touch them at different levels of the organization. So we have global account managers who work with the customers the global customers on a high level. And then we never take for granted the local relationship. So while we coordinate and collaborate with the more global customers, we also have to execute on the ground. And so we try to have the same relationship, for instance, in Europe with a company that we may have in the U.S., even though we may be running the business, if it's an American company, from the U.S. We try to have the same kind of relationship there, because people can make independent decisions, and our relationships will vary around the world based on one, the products that they're buying, but also on our expertise in being able to supply it. But more and more, they expect their suppliers to have global capabilities and to be able to rapidly transfer technology and ensure the same level of quality and service in whatever market they're selling in.
Do you have country managers also?
We do.
And what are their responsibilities?
They're responsible for the facilities in the country, for the local customer relationships, and they typically have responsibility for both segments of business. Inside the U.S., we have enough scale that our businesses, our consumer and industrial segments, run more independently. Outside the U.S., we have a lot of combined facilities, and the country managers and the regional managers have responsibility for both businesses. We may have different customer focus and different methods going to market, but we consolidate it so that we share the infrastructure.
Another curious thing came up in talking with our students today, which was the differences in millennials. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about what makes them so different in your business. And is this a phenomenon that's just happening in America? Is this just my kids? or is this happening all around the globe?
Part of it plays well to our business, because they want to cook and they want to share their cooking. And so they're much more open to new flavors and new tastes. And they use the whole social media and tools to be able to communicate with their friends on what they're doing. So that part is really important to them. The challenges are they're looking for more artisanal and different kinds of flavor solutions, different kinds of foods, and so we've got to be able to make sure that we keep our brands relevant for that consumer. But it's the fact that they are digital natives. You and I are digital immigrants, but they're digital natives, and they've grown up with the technology. They're much faster. They're so dependent on it, and they're always connected. And so that puts a different set of challenges with the consumer and a different set of challenges in the workplace to to adapt. They've got to adapt a little bit in the workplace. We have to adapt a little bit, but it certainly is driving change, and it's not unique to the U.S. market at all. We see the same behavior in China and Eastern Europe and Europe that we see with millennials here.
I see. So do you have just one kind of core base of or combination of ingredients that you work off of, or is it more? I'm kind of likening this to car platforms. And how many platforms do you have that you build off of?
Well, in terms of ingredients, it's all pretty unique and blended. But in terms of what we call platforms, what we think of as platforms are things, for instance, like slow cookers. So that's a platform that works really well for us. In the U.S., that's going to be beef stew and chili and pulled pork barbecue. In Australia, for instance, it may be lamb casserole. In the UK, it may be something even completely different than that, but it kind of starts with that core platform. We do have things, our grinders are pretty consistent around the world, although in some cases we sell bigger and square and different packages, but the concept is pretty similar.
You have kind of 5 platforms that you built your culture around. Everything from people orientation to trust the taste, taste that you can trust rather, and high performance culture. And how have you spread that around the world, and or is it just really a U.S. culture?
Our global platforms have been spread around the world, and we launched it as part of a corporate branding campaign internally, because what we wanted to do is help our employees understand what we stand for, and then they can communicate it to their customers and their consumers, and it really kind of drives a different set of expectations. So those platforms that we saw today, if you went to China, you would see a similar, different pictures, but you'd see a very similar set of platforms. Same way you'd see the same pictures actually if you went into our facility in France. And so we purposely did that to unify what the company stood for, so that we all speak from a common language. Certainly the cultures adapt to the markets that we're in, and so but the fundamentals don't change. We have multiple management boards for development in every location, whether it's China or France or Turkey. And so that's a big part of who we are and what we stand for. And it helps kind of drive the unique culture that we have around teamwork and collaboration and the focus on the power of people.